Have you ever caught yourself saying, I just don't feel like myself anymore? Maybe it was on a quiet afternoon when the house felt too still. Or maybe it was after looking at an old photo, remembering how much more alive, adventurous, or carefree you used to feel. It's not always about aches and pains. Sometimes it's about feeling like life has started to move past you, and you're just trying to keep up. But let me ask you something else. What if the secret to staying young at heart after 60 isn't about doing more, but about letting go? That might sound a little backwards. We live in a world that's always telling us to add things, add supplements, add workouts, add hobbies. But sometimes the real magic happens when we learn to release the things that no longer serve us, like old fears, heavy regrets, outdated expectations. And once those weights are gone, suddenly your heart feels lighter, your days feel freer, you laugh more easily, you feel more like you again. In this video, we're going to talk heart to heart about 5 powerful things to let go of after 60. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you've earned the right to feel free. You've lived through enough storms. You've proven your strength. And now it's time to feel a little more peace, a little more joy, and a whole lot more ease in your life. Let's begin with something that sits heavy on many people's shoulders, even if they never say it out loud. Holding on to who you used to be. It's natural to miss certain parts of our past. The energy we had at 40, the skin we had at 30, the things we used to do without even thinking twice, gardening for hours, traveling without a care, picking up the grandkids without any back pain. But if we're not careful, that nostalgia turns into comparison. And comparison is a thief. It steals the joy of who you are today. The truth is, you are not the same person you were 20 years ago. And thank goodness for that. You've grown wiser. You've become more resilient. You know what matters now and what really doesn't. But when we constantly measure ourselves against our younger selves, we overlook the richness of the present. We stop celebrating the beauty of now. Staying young at heart isn't about pretending to be 30 again. It's about letting go of the pressure to be anything other than the person you are today. Because this version of you, right now, is still worthy of joy, of love, of purpose. Let that sink in for a moment. The mirror might not reflect the same face it used to, but that sparkle in your eyes, that's still there. And when you stop fighting the past, your present becomes more vibrant than ever. Now, the second thing to let go of, this one's a bit more personal. It's the belief that it's too late. Too late to try something new. Too late to travel. Too late to fall in love again. Too late to make a change. That little voice in your head that says, what's the point? You know the one I'm talking about. It shows up quietly, sometimes disguised as being realistic. But what it's really doing is putting limits on a life that still has room to grow. Let me tell you something honest and hopeful. It is never too late. Never too late to make your days a little more exciting, a little more meaningful, a little more you. I've known people who picked up the piano at 70, who started painting again after 65, who found romance in their late 70s, who moved to a new city just because it called to them. What matters isn't how much time is left, but how alive you feel in that time. Letting go of the idea that your best days are behind you, that's what helps you feel young again. And it's not about chasing wild dreams or proving anything. It's about giving yourself permission to still be curious, to still wonder, to still want things, and to go after them gently and bravely. You see, we don't stop dreaming because we age. We age because we stop dreaming. So what would you do if you weren't worried about being too late? Would you take that trip you keep thinking about? Would you start writing that story you've carried inside you for years? Would you forgive someone? Or would you finally give yourself a break from trying to be perfect? That brings us softly to the next thing to let go of: perfection. That quiet, exhausting pressure to get everything just right, to look a certain way, act a certain way, even age a certain way. Maybe you feel it when you look in the mirror or when you compare yourself to friends who seem to have it all together. But let me say this clearly. You don't need to be perfect to be lovable. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy of rest, laughter, or happiness. You're allowed to have bad days. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to be figuring things out even at 60, 70, or beyond. because growing doesn't stop when we hit a certain number. It just deepens. And the sooner we drop the need to impress everyone else, the sooner we start impressing ourselves. There is such freedom in saying, "This is who I am, and that's enough." When you let go of the need to be perfect, suddenly there's space for real joy, for real connections, for the kind of life that doesn't just look good from the outside, but feels good on the inside. Letting go isn't always easy. Some of these things have been with us for decades. They've become habits, beliefs, identities. But even so, they're not set in stone. They're not glued to your soul. You can choose, slowly and gently, to release them. And as you do, you make more room for lightness, for peace, and for the kind of youthfulness that has nothing to do with wrinkles and everything to do with spirit. Now that we've talked about the pressure of the past and the weight of too late, let's take a closer look at another quiet thief of joy, one that often hides behind good intentions. One that often hides behind good intentions. And that's the need to please everyone. Now, this one is tricky. Many of us grew up with the belief that being kind means saying yes. That being helpful means always being available. That being a good parent, partner, or friend means putting others first. Always. And yes, kindness is a beautiful thing, but not when it comes at the cost of your own peace. Somewhere along the way, many of us started believing that our worth came from being needed, and we wore ourselves thin, making sure everyone else was okay. But here's the truth that sets many people free after 60. You don't have to keep proving yourself. You've done enough. You've given enough. You are enough. Letting go of the need to please everyone doesn't make you selfish. It makes you wise. It means you've learned that you cannot pour from an empty cup. It means you realize that saying no to others can sometimes be the biggest yes to yourself. Think about this. How many times have you said yes to something just to avoid disappointing someone? Maybe you joined an event you didn't want to go to, took on a task that left you exhausted, or stayed quiet when you really wanted to speak up. Over time, those small moments build into something heavy. And eventually, that weight takes a toll, not just physically, but emotionally. It's okay to put yourself first now. In fact, it's necessary. You've spent so much of your life supporting others. Now it's your turn to be supported by yourself, your own choices, your own boundaries. You deserve to wake up without dread, to go through your day without guilt, to enjoy your evening without replaying conversations and wondering if you upset someone. And here's something beautiful. When you start honoring your own needs, people notice. You become a model of balance. You teach others that it's possible to be kind without being a doormat. And in that way, you don't lose connection, you deepen it. So the next time someone asks something of you and your gut says no, try listening. Try trusting that quiet voice inside that's saying, "I need rest. I want space. I'd rather not." That voice, that's wisdom. That's self-care. That's you stepping into a season of life where your own joy matters just as much as anyone else's. Now, as we loosen the grip on perfection, shake off the belief that it's too late, and free ourselves from a need to please, there's something else quietly waiting to be released. And this one might be the most powerful of all. It's the idea that your value comes from what you do instead of who you are. It shows up in subtle ways. Maybe you retired recently, and you're wondering what your purpose is now. Or your kids are grown, and the house feels too quiet. Maybe you used to be the one everyone leaned on, the one who fixed things, cooked the meals, kept everything running. And now you're just here. But hear me when I say this. You are not what you produce. You are not just your roles. You are not less valuable, because your days look different than they used to. Your worth is not tied to your schedule, your achievements, or your to-do list. It never was. In fact, this chapter of life can be the most meaningful. Not because you're doing more, but because you're finally free to be still, to be present, to be true to yourself. This is a time to rediscover what lights you up, not for anyone else, but for you. Maybe it's sitting on the porch watching the sky change colors. Maybe it's calling an old friend just to laugh about nothing. Maybe it's learning to paint, not to sell your art, but just to feel something move through your hands. When you let go of the idea that you have to constantly earn your place in the world, you begin to see the beauty of just being alive. You start to notice the little moments again, the warmth of the sun on your back, the sound of birds in the morning, the comfort of your favorite chair. And in those moments, something inside you relaxes. You start to breathe a little deeper, smile a little easier. You feel connected again, not to what you do, but to who you are. And you are enough, right here, right now, just as you are. Think of all the years you spent moving, building, striving, supporting. That energy, that drive, it got you here. But now it's okay to shift, to move at your own pace, to rest without guilt, to enjoy life for its simplicity. There's nothing lazy or unproductive about savoring the life you created. In fact, that's one of the greatest signs of wisdom, learning how to enjoy what you spent decades building, instead of constantly pushing for more. So take a moment and ask yourself gently, what can I release today? Maybe it's an old belief. Maybe it's a habit of overgiving. Maybe it's the pressure to stay busy. Whatever it is, give yourself permission to let it go, just a little, and notice what begins to rise in its place. Peace, clarity, freedom, joy. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means choosing what truly matters. It means stepping into this next season with open hands and an open heart. And as you do that, there's one more thing I want to share, something that often hides in the quiet corners of our lives, something that can weigh us down without us even realizing it. Resentment. It doesn't always show up loudly. Sometimes it whispers when you remember a hurtful comment from years ago, or when someone from the past comes to mind and your stomach tightens just a little. Other times it's louder, a deep ache from a betrayal, a disappointment that never quite faded, a wound that still feels raw even after all these years. Resentment can hide in the folds of memory. It can attach itself to old arguments, broken relationships, unfair treatment, or regrets, especially the kind we carry but rarely speak of. And here's the thing, holding on to it doesn't punish the people who hurt us. It punishes us. Carrying resentment is like drinking bitter water and expecting someone else to feel the sting. It seeps into our mood, our posture, even our health. It can make the heart feel heavy and the days feel dull. And sometimes we get so used to carrying it that we forget what it feels like to be light. But there's a kind of freedom that comes from letting go, not for their sake, but for yours. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You see, forgiveness isn't about pretending the past didn't happen. It's about choosing not to let it define your present. It's about saying, yes, that hurt, but I won't carry it any longer. I choose to live free. Letting go of resentment is an act of love toward yourself. It's choosing calm over chaos, joy over judgment, lightness over lingering pain. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be quiet, soft, gentle. Maybe it starts with writing a letter you never send, or speaking the words, I release this, while taking a deep breath. Maybe it means shifting the story in your mind, no longer being a victim, but the survivor, the one who grew stronger, wiser, kinder. And sometimes it helps to think of it this way. What if the best years of your life are still waiting on the other side of forgiveness? What if joy has been knocking on the door, but resentment was too loud to hear it? You've already come so far. You weathered storms and walked through fire. You don't need to carry the ashes anymore. Let them go. Let the breeze take them. Let your heart unclench. Because here's what often happens when we release what no longer serves us. Whether perfection, the fear of aging, the need to please, the pressure to be productive, or the weight of old resentments. What rises in their place is something soft, something bright, something quietly powerful, a return to yourself. You start to feel young at heart again, not because you're trying to rewind time, but because you're finally living on your own terms. Free, present, whole. This is the beauty of life after 60. It's not about fading. It's about blooming. It's about embracing the truth that age doesn't limit joy. In many ways, it deepens it. You laugh more easily because you know how rare laughter is. You cry more freely because you're not afraid of your feelings anymore. You love more fully because you've learned what truly matters. Staying young at heart isn't about chasing trends or pretending to be who you were at 30. It's about letting go of what no longer fits and making space for wonder, curiosity, and peace. It's about waking up and saying, This life, right here, is still full of possibility. So if you're sitting there wondering, is it too late for me to feel lighter, freer, happier? I want you to hear this with all the love I can offer. It's never too late. Not for joy, not for peace, not for healing, not for living a life that feels true. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. Still, always. And if today is a day you decide to set something down, an old belief, a guilt that isn't yours, a grudge you've outgrown, then today is also the day you begin again. So, take a deep breath. Right here, right now. Feel the air fill your lungs. Let your shoulders soften. Let your heart open. Just a little more. This is your time. Your time to live gently, boldly, quietly, joyfully. And if you feel inspired, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What's one thing you're ready to let go of? Or one moment in your life when you felt truly young at heart? If this video spoke to you, go ahead and give it a like. It helps more people find these messages. And if you want more gentle reminders to live fully and age with grace, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We got so many beautiful conversations ahead. Thank you for spending this time with me. Here's to living with less weight and more wonder. Here's to staying young, not just in body, but in spirit. And above all else, here's to you, exactly as you are right now in this moment. You are enough. You are free. You are deeply, beautifully alive.